Alright, 2023 is just about to come to a close. You know what that means. Time for us to dress our best and reflect upon the year. In this case, talking about my top 10 favorite movies of 2023. 2023 also broke a record of mine. I watched and reviewed 52 different movies this year. That averages to about a new review a week for you guys, so hey, brought you guys some content. But this is always my favorite list to do every year. I love reflecting on what were my favorite movies of the year, the movies that I felt were the personal best. But before we get into that, just gonna make some really quick points. Number one, despite what I just said, having seen all those different movies, I did not see everything that got released this year. Point number two, these will not be in-depth reviews. These will just be my quick pointers about why I love the movies, why they're on this list. If you wanna see in-depth pointers, feel free to check out my reviews that are on my channel. All film is subjective. My list is not the right list. This is my personal list. You will probably disagree with me at various different points, and that's okay. If there's ever a time where I get to be completely biased and subjective, this is that time. Alright, I've made all those pointers. Let's get into it. Starting off this list at number 10, we have The Killer. I guess what's been the recent trend in my previous top 10 best lists, I always start at the bottom with one of the more polarizing movies of the year every year. I know there are some people out there who are wildly disappointed with The Killer. I actually thought it was great. When you take a movie directed by David Fincher, starring Michael Fassbender, about an assassin, that's more than enough to get me interested right there. I know some people out there were maybe disappointed that this wasn't the action-packed revenge flick that they thought it was going to be, but I still thought this was a very intense, gripping thriller about a serial killer. Well, not really a serial killer, more of an assassin. But in the case with the assassin, it actually, in a lot of ways, humanized him, and it somehow gave us a very real look at the world of being an assassin. You know, how in this world, how in this, organization, if you want to call it that, it runs very similar, in all likelihood, to what any other business or job is really like. It took this hitman that was Michael Fassbender and it made him very human. It made him imperfect. He makes a mistake. And of course, people, including himself, suffer from it. He has to go on there and correct these mistakes. He questions his own perfection as his skill set is really put into question. It was probably the most real and original assassin story I have seen in a long time. Henceforth, it made the list. Staying on the topic of killers, at number 9, we have Killers of the Flower Moon. Some of you might be very surprised I don't have this movie significantly higher on my list. The only reason because it's a 3.5 hour long movie revolving very heavy subject matter, so it's not exactly something that I could see myself rewatching a whole lot because of the investment that it is. But regardless, it's still a beautifully tragic odyssey about one of the most horrific events in US history that I don't think enough of us knew about. Martin Scorsese is a master behind the camera. This movie is shot beautifully. Leo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, all three of them are going to be up for the Oscars in their respective categories, and frankly, if any of them won, I wouldn't disagree with it. The movie has you sucked in. It made very good use of its extremely long runtime. It absolutely blows your mind just to the level human beings are willing to stoop to take something that doesn't rightfully belong to them. I don't know how much filmmaking Martin Scorsese has left in him, but I'm very thankful for as long as he is, he's bringing us movies like this. It has been a hot minute since we got a really great next level Christmas movie brought to us. The Holdovers was just that. Paul Giamatti, this is the best I've seen of him in a very, very long time. The rest of the supporting cast does a phenomenal job here. Dominic Sessa in particular, I haven't seen that kid in anything prior to this movie, but he's got some serious work ahead for himself. I love the very old-fashioned feel that this movie really brought. It felt like a movie that could have taken place many years ago, and it just felt nicer because of that. I love seeing the dynamic between all these characters that are all stuck together, that really do not like each other in the beginning, and kind of along the way form this very family-like bond between themselves. It was funny when it needed to be, it was dramatic when it needed to be, it's extremely heartwarming. By the end of it, you're almost in tears. It's another Christmas classic that I will definitely be watching during the holiday season for many, many years to come. I never would have guessed that a couple of YouTubers in their filmmaking debut would have made the best horror movie of the year, but here we are with Talk to Me. This ended up being one of the most original horror movies I have seen in quite a while. I mean, we've seen the demonic possession movies before, but I've never seen anything quite like this. This movie was creepy, intense, scary. It also really played on a lot of different themes I thought very well. I mean, loss, grief, peer pressure, addiction. There's some disturbing ass imagery in here that's gonna absolutely just shake you, but it absolutely works for the story. The cast was fantastic all around. It also has, in my opinion, one of the best endings endings I've seen in a long time for a horror movie. Cannot wait to see what the Philippo brothers' next project is, even if it is a Talk to Me sequel. At number 6, we have probably the heaviest and most emotionally impactful movie I saw all year, and that was the Ironclaw. Zac Efron truly gives the performance of a lifetime in this movie. I mean, really not just him, but the entire family in this movie. All the actors who played the brothers, the father, just the entire family. It's a movie that really makes you appreciate the physical work and battle that professional wrestlers put themselves in for their sport. I absolutely loved the chemistry between the entire family. It felt like a real family. The brothers, they all felt like they had such a strong brotherhood. And the absolutely horrific tragedy that happened to this family, it paints the picture of what mental health really is like for men, what the strength of family really is, and just how important it is. It emotionally absolutely destroys you that a story like this was very real and it actually happened. It's definitely not the easiest movie to watch, but it is a movie that I am so thankful was made. Alright, kicking off the top 5, we've got Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Or is it just Dead Reckoning now? I heard they're renaming the sequel. But either way, it's so incredible that 7 movies in, the Mission Impossible franchise is still going as strong as it is. Tom Cruise is the best action movie star in the business working today. I will not take any arguments otherwise. He is. I just love the chemistry among the cast in this franchise. You can tell they love working together. You can tell their characters mean so much to them. Haley Atwell was a great addition to this movie. I really loved her chemistry with Tom Cruise. The action in this movie is just to die for. I mean, the train scene, the scene with Tom Cruise just going off the bike and skydiving off a cliff is just insane. And that's where we really got to give credit to the stunt work in this movie. The fact that Tom Cruise does the stunts on his own, and he's what, 60-something years old? Wild. It had a great story. It had so many thrilling moments. I don't know if the 8th Mission Impossible is going to be the final movie of this franchise, but you know what? As long as Tom Cruise remains involved, I'm cool with this franchise going on for however long it can go for. Conveniently at number 4, we have John Wick Chapter 4. It was basically a 2-horse race all year long between Mission Impossible and John Wick for what I thought was the best action movie of the year. But at the end of the day, I couldn't go against Baba Yaga. This felt like the perfect conclusion to this John Wick character arc we've gotten for 4 movies now. I mean, Keanu Reeves absolutely crushes it as John Wick. Similar to Tom Cruise, he slays his own stunt work. He does a phenomenal job with this character. This film is absolutely shot in such a gorgeous aspect. I really loved Bill Skarsgård as the villain. I think he's the best villain we've gotten in a John Wick movie. The new characters that are brought in were all fantastic. I'd be interested in seeing any of them get a spinoff in this John Wick franchise. And yeah, you want to talk great action scenes. I mean, this movie had some of the best of the entire year. I mean, the scene in traffic, the staircase, the overhead shot of him just taking out guys with a dragon breath shotgun. What's more badass than that? There have been reports that there's going to be a John Wick Chapter 5. I really hope that doesn't happen because I really feel the ending of this movie was truly the perfect send-off for a character like John Wick. And if, God willing, it is the last John Wick, it went out as, in my opinion, the best one in the whole franchise. You don't have to grow up a massive fan of kaiju to acknowledge that Godzilla Minus One is maybe the best Godzilla movie we've probably ever gotten. That's right, last year India brought us all on board with their filmmaking style with a movie like RRR. This year Japan did the same thing with this movie. It's the type of movie that makes me reflect on the American adaptations of Godzilla that we've gotten. And it really gives me even more of an appreciation for a movie like this, because this is truly the masters at work. This movie actually made you care so much about the human characters and the human arcs and their stories and how much you're rooting for them to succeed against Godzilla. It made Godzilla the monster of the story and the villain and the being that needed to be stopped, and it is the most terrifying Godzilla I think I've ever seen. I love the time and place and history that this movie takes place in. I think it's perfect for a Godzilla movie. Visually, the movie looks spectacular. I mean, Godzilla's atomic breath in this, just wow. It's so thrilling, it's so intense. It's a monster movie unlike anything I've ever seen. The fact that it was made off a $15 million budget, if that, is just incredible. I know the MonsterVerse is still going to continue with the American versions that we get, but I don't see anything America makes topping this beauty. You all know me, I love Spider-Man. I'm a die-hard Spider-Man fan. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, was going to be on this list and very high up there. You all just knew it. People out there say superhero movie fatigue is real. No, it's not. Mediocre superhero movie fatigue, that's very real. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse proves that if you can make a truly great superhero movie with some effort, people are gonna come and go see it. This was by far and away the best superhero movie of the year. It's probably the best animation I've seen in nearly 10 years, and I think it's one of the best sequels of all time. It had a much darker and more emotionally heavy tone than I think Into the Spider-Verse did. The new Spider-Man we get introduced to were all fantastic. I mean, Spider-Woman, Spider-Punk, Spider-Man 2099, all awesome. The animation in these Spider-Verse movies are just absolutely beautiful. They're like nothing I've ever seen before. I know others are trying to recapture that magic, but this is the way to do it. It had incredibly exciting moments. It gave us a great villain in the spot. It ends on the cliffhanger of the century. That has me so fucking excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse whenever that gets released. I love seeing the relationship between Miles and Gwen continue to develop the way that it is. I really love seeing Miles Morales with some experience under his belt as Spider-Man in this movie. Once again, has a great soundtrack with more than a few songs that I've been listening to a lot. I swore on my life this was going to be my #1 movie of the year. I thought nothing was gonna top it until I remembered the golden rule of cinema. And that rule is, friends, you never ever ever in your life bet against Christopher Nolan. That's right, folks. My #1 movie of 2023 is Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is a cinematic achievement unlike anything I can truly remember. I mean, this is a historical biopic with no action scenes, no CGI. I'll touch more on that in a minute. And it's 3 hours long. And it made close to $1 billion at the box office. I think you have to understand, those are not the type of movies that make a lot of money at the box office. And this movie did that. That is truly a testament to how great a filmmaker Christopher Nolan is. Cillian Murphy, he gives the performance of his career as J. Robert Oppenheimer. He needs to win the Oscar. I really fundamentally believe he should win the Oscar for Best Actor. I mean, hell, I think this movie should win the Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture. Christopher Nolan, he deserves that at this point. I believe it's now or never. If he doesn't win those Oscars with this movie, I don't think he's ever going to. The entire cast in this movie are all spectacular. Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Matt Damon. They're all fucking great. I mean, that nuclear launch scene where they test the atomic bomb, in my theater, you could have heard a pin drop with how amazing it looked. The fact that there is not one bit of CGI in this entire movie, despite the fact that it's maybe visually the best looking movie of the year, that is unreal. I mean, it used to be in the reverse. It used to be the more CGI you had in a movie, the better it was. The fact that Christopher Nolan made such a visually appealing movie with no CGI, it feels impossible. The movie's 3 hours long. It didn't even feel like 3 hours long. The movie absolutely crushes every aspect of its genre that it was trying to go after. I mean, it feels like a third biopic to J. Robert Oppenheimer and his life, what made him this brilliant physicist. It also feels like a third military warfare, sort of imitation game kind of vibe of a movie. And then it feels like a third courtroom drama. And it absolutely slays all three of those aspects perfectly. Hell, speaking of records, this movie tied a record of my own. I saw this movie 3 times in the movie theater, and the third time I saw it, I was able to see it in IMAX 70mm. I think that was a moment for me. Once I got to witness this movie in that format, which is what Nolan intended it to be, that pretty much set it in stone right there as my #1 movie of 2023. It was an experience at the movies unlike anything I really had this year. Oppenheimer, that was the movie of 2023 for me. So there it is, guys. That was my list for the top 10 best movies of 2023. Thank you guys once again for sticking with me for another year. I really do appreciate it. I think year after year, I get a little more viewers, I get a little more fans, I get a few more regulars in the comment section that I really enjoy talking movies with. And even though it was a slower year for some movie genres that maybe we've grown to love, it still gave us some beauties here and there, so I'm very thankful for that. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know your favorite movies of the year. Do you have 5? Do you have 10? Do you have 20? However many you loved this year, I'd love to hear what those are. Also, tune in within the next coming days. I will have a top 10 worst movie list of 2023 coming for you guys. I know that's one you're very excited for. But until then, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.